Ladies and gentlemen, we got Steve back. He's in the building, y'all.
Yeah.
Got the full cast. What's going on, sir?
Man, I'm glad to be back. We got the biggest week in wrestling coming up here, boys. I don't know about you guys, but I'm absolutely stoked.
Yeah. There's definitely some stuff I'm looking forward to for sure. Eric, what about you? How you feeling about it?
Oh man, it's the funnest. It's like the Super Bowl for wrestling. So yeah, I'm all the way ready for it.
Let's get into it. Let's get right into it. Now, we already dropped our predictions. You can definitely go back and look at that episode, everybody, if you haven't done so already. But we wanted to make sure that we got the homie Steve in, so that way he could get his predictions off and we can discuss, debate. You know how we do on shoot style sessions. We shoot the shit. So that's why we here. You know what I mean? So we are going to start with night one. And the order of the matches that I have them in, they have the opening match as Jade Cargill versus Naomi. Steve, who you got and why?
This was really one of the ones that I had the most trouble with because you can kind of see it playing out in any, number of directions because Naomi's a heel now. I think she's more over than she's been in forever. This is the most interesting Naomi character that I remember in a long time. She's got an edge to her. It seems natural. She's a natural ass kicker, so you can buy what's going on. And then, Jade's the exact same. Ever since she came back, I think she's been even more interesting. Especially when they give her a little bit of chance to talk. I think she's talking a lot better. She looks comfortable, talking shit in a babyface way. My prediction, I think I'm going to go Jade.
Yeah, I think that's what we ultimately landed on also, first big Mania moment. And it seems like it might be a heel heavy Mania. So you want to have some babyface wins in there. So Jade, I think, is a good shout for that. Eric, that was what you said too, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Like I said before, I think Naomi's heel turn has been absolutely amazing. But just looking up and down the card and also just looking at how the story is kind of played out and based off a couple of other things that I think are going to happen later, I got Jade winning.
Yeah, I think it makes more sense story-wise also, because if they're leading towards Bianca Jade at some point down the road, you want to have Jade win. Because it doesn't seem like Bianca's going to interfere in that match or anything like that. It's going to be probably a straight up one-on-one match. So I would imagine that they would have to have the two dominant force story, basically Bianca versus Jade, who's the top one. It's going to be more of that rather than personal beef, I guess. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It'll turn into personal beef, but it's going to start more, I think, just competitive. So in order to pull that, you got to have Jade win, I think. So I think we're all in agreement there. The next match, I got Rey Mysterio versus El Grande Americano. Steve, who you got and why?
I think I feel like sometimes there's programs where the last Raw or the last SmackDown of the week kind of gives it away one way or another. There's not, it's not as much as it used to be, but I think one of these situations is definitely my boy El Grande Americano versus Rey. I think El Grande, I don't think has lost a match, and he's looked awesome the last few weeks. I think Rey's due for a win here. I think it's going to be one of the best matches of either card, low key.
Not only that, but Rey does very well at Manias. His record at Mania is pretty stellar.
And he just puts on a show.
Yeah.
I feel like one of the best things about Rey Mysterio is the fact that regardless of his size, and obviously that's why he wasn't a world champion as many times as dudes like JBL or Triple H or other Batista, other guys in that era when he was in his prime. But Rey always performs the best, basically, especially at every Mania. You can always go back. Rey always has the best matches. He's just, the crowd's electric when he's doing his thing, and Rey's just the best, man.
Yeah, that's the stem cell god right there.
Yeah,
right.
Literally.
And then the thing about how they tell the story is because I agree with you, Steve. I have Ray winning too, and depending on how they tell the story, El Grande Americano can lose, and it won't hurt the person behind the mask. You know,
I completely agree.
before we theoretically know who it's going to be, but we know who it's going to be. But still,
We know.
Yeah.
I mean, of course it's Chad, but I'm still maintaining that I think at Mania Ray is going to unmask him, and it's not going to be Chad. Now I don't know how they pull that off. You know, I don't know how they pull that way. They extend the story out a little bit more. I don't know how they pull that off necessarily. I think, you know, Eric, me and you discussed it, and I think we were talking about them basically doing like the Eric Angle thing with Kurt Angle, like how, you know, you go under the ring, there's another guy with a mask in the same outfit underneath. He comes out, Ray rolls him up or 619s him for the win, whatever, pulls the mask off. It's not Gable. So it continues.
Well, Shane, who are you thinking?
So I was at first thinking Josh Alexander, but he debuted at AEW last night, so it's not him. So now I don't know.
That's funny. He thought it was the guy, then he just debuts on AEW. He's like, oh, we can
right. Shane brought up Rusev, and the only way I could see them pulling that off is if Rusev shaved the beard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which he could.
He would have to shave the beard all the way, because if he didn't, it would be way too obvious.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He's done that before, though. He's wrestled, you know, clean shaven before. So, you know, I don't think he's opposed to it per se.
I don't think he is either. And I wouldn't be, I don't think he would be opposed to coming back looking a completely different way. So I could see that. But now that it's not Josh Alexander, yeah, I'm curious to see if they did do a switch, who it would be. But yeah, I still got Ray winning, regardless.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're all in agreement on these first two matches.
Yep.
All
right, so now we're getting into some title stuff. Let's go. We have the United States Championship on the line with LA Knight, versus Jacob Fatu. Who you got and why?
Jacob Fatu. I think it's high time that Jacob Fatu becomes a champion in WWE, and that's not even to say anything about LA Knight, who's I think going to end up being in the world title or WWE picture here soon. I think he's just kind of established himself as a dude that they can rely on, and he's one of my favorite guys to watch. But Jacob Fatu is also in that vein, and it's just taken like to the fans. It's like, you know, I think he was meant to be a monster heel, and he was just so good at being one that he just got over quickly with everyone. And I think I got to go Fatu here. They could set up another match with LA Knight down the road, and I think LA Knight's going to go on to be in the WWE title scene.
Yeah, I could see that. Eric, what was your prediction on this one?
I don't even have to say much more. Jacob Fatu, for the exact same reasons Steve said. It's his time. I think the possible red herring of Solo interfering, I think that is a possible red herring, but I don't really see it happening. I do want to throw the caveat out there that we don't know if Randy Orton has a match on WrestleMania yet, and we don't know if it's versus Solo or not. If it's versus Solo or if it's versus whoever, I think Randy's going to win. So that's besides the point. But I do see, if it is versus Solo, then I don't see him being involved in this match. But even if it's not, even if Solo is someone involved, I still see Jacob pulling off the win here. I just think it's his time. And especially like we said on the last show, Shane, based off that Shinsuke Nakamura title reign that didn't really work out. Like, I think they needed a reason to give it back to LA Knight. And I think while they wanted LA Knight to have a longer reign, I think the Shinsuke run didn't work out. And now they gave it back to LA Knight so they can have a big person to put over when Jacob wins it. So, I got Jacob winning it.
I agree with that.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah. So the only other way I could see it playing out is because I think it's sort of, you know, everyone is expecting Jacob to win. The only way I could see them doing like a swerve in this sense, like Solo comes out to try to help Jacob and he fucks up somehow. You know what I mean? And then that's how you start their feud, because obviously they've been teasing that forever. So maybe that's how you start their feud, so they can go ahead and get that out the way, Solo and Jacob. And then you allow LA Knight to continue his reign. You know, he has some other feuds or whatever. Maybe you circle back to Jacob later. You know, so that's the only other way I could see that playing out if they don't go with the obvious have Jacob win. So
I will say, just to end that off, if they do that and Solo ends up costing Jacob, Jacob will be one of the biggest baby faces coming out of Mania.
Yep. Totally agree. Shout out to Jacob, Sacramento, the whole Bay Area, and the hyphy movement. You know what I'm saying? He definitely holds it down in the ring. Every time he hits a big move, he breaks out the clown crump dancing. You know what I'm saying? That's definitely a cultural representation. So I definitely want to make sure to shout them out as well. But moving on to the next match, speaking of the culture, we got the World Tag Team Championship. We got the War Raiders, the champions, versus the New Day. Who you got and why, Steve?
I got the New Day. I think the New Day's heel run has been everything I've wanted and more. And I'm sure Eric probably agrees too, because we've been completely popping over it since they went heel. I think it started with the whole thing with Big E. I think that really got them over, like the way, you know, because Big E has a neck injury. You know, fans like me included can sympathize with them, and the way that went down really put them in a heel light, and I think they've been epic, both, you know, on the mic and in the ring. And I just think it's time to put the belts on a Hall of Fame tag team, one of the best of all time, and that's the New Day.
While we're here, both of y'all tell me, New Day or the Usos, who's better and why?
Go ahead.
Ooh, that's
you go ahead.
tough.
You want me to go?
Yeah, you can go first.
I think the Usos. I think they may not have started as hot as what, you know, why am I forgetting their names? Oh,
Kofi and Xavier.
I think Kofi and Xavier, and obviously Big E, when they are, you know, alternating tag teams, they were bigger, I think, at the beginning when the Usos were just starting to break them. But I just think that Jay and Jimmy have cultivated, you know, personalities that they're very different and they're very alike in a way. You know, their stuff beyond the bloodline, which, you know, was the pinnacle. Like, they've just gotten themselves naturally and organically over as a team and as individuals. And I think it's even a thing where, like, let's say, you know, we'll talk about this match later, but let's just say Jay doesn't win. Let's just say he doesn't. I think he's going to win, but let's just say he doesn't. Whenever he does lose the title, he's going to just seamlessly either, you know, fighting a couple more times for the title again, or, you know, just going back to tagging with Jimmy, because they're the best tag team in the WWE.
Yeah,
I agree. While I think the New Day is amazing, and I think personally, as in-ring workers, they might be a little bit better. I think just as an overall package, I think the Usos are better, because I even go back to the Uso Penitentiary days, and I think even that shit was magical. And that was kind of before I even really fully got back into WWE all the way as a fan. And when I first saw that, I remember really getting into that and being like, oh, this is something to see. And then when I got to see how they work in tandem, I really rocked with how they worked as a tandem. And then I felt like they just elevated so much when they got into the bloodline, and how much they were able to really tell that story as brothers, as cousins within the faction, all of that stuff. So I think when you really put it into a package and draw it out as a fully fleshed out storyline, as in-ring workers storyline, and put that all into a package, I think you got to give it to the Usos.
All right, so I'm gonna stand on an island by myself here then for a second, because I'm going New Day. Reason why I'm going New Day is because they've sort of had three separate
iterations.
Yeah, generations. Thank you. That's the best word.
Iterations of them.
Yeah. So the first one, when they were like the preachers and stuff like that, a lot of people didn't like it, but
I loved it.
I thought it was good because like it got them over as heels, you know, and for the newer generation of wrestling fans, that was a relatively refreshing gimmick. There weren't really a lot of preacher gimmicks, you know what I mean? Like back in like the early 90s, you had like Reverend Slick. You could sort of say Paul Bearer, but not really, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
you know, he had like a preacher aesthetic to him and like effect, but he wasn't explicitly a preacher, you know what I mean? And then there
Really
were
only Bruce Pritchard.
gimmicks, you know, outside of that. So the fact that they came out as preachers and like with gospel and stuff like that, that was very unique at the time. So I like that. Then you have the whole unicorn Booty-O's cartoon era, which was the majority of it. And now you have the heel era, you know, so that's three very distinct, you know, whereas with the Usos, it was just Islander Usos and then Uso Penitentiary, which to me, I'm going to call it the John Cena effect, where he started as Doctor of Thugonomics and then he just sort of morphed into Super Cena, but he never really changed gimmicks, but he kind of did. That's what the Usos did with the Usos. They're still kind of the Uso Penitentiary Usos, but not really, but sort of still. Like they didn't really change the gimmick too much. They just joined the bloodline. You know what I mean? So I think there's more variety on the New Day side, and I think that's what makes me lean towards them. They've shown more diversity, I guess.
I like that. No, that's cool. That's fair.
So
Yeah, that's a fair argument.
all right. Who we got winning the titles? What did we say? New Day, everybody, right? Everybody.
Yeah, we said
New Day.
we all said New Day.
We're all saying New Day.
Okay. All right. Here's where it gets tough. WWE Women's Championship. Tiffany Stratton versus Charlotte Flair. Steve, who you got?
I don't even know if I'm sure right now, but you know, it's a prediction show. We got to make them, and I think I'm gonna go with Tiffany Stratton.
Okay.
I think that decision may have changed, but I have thought it's Tiffany for a while. I think she keeps getting more over and over. She's a believable like babyface to, you know, in my opinion, beat like a badass like a Charlotte Flair. I don't think Charlotte's at the top of her game, you know, in character even right now. I think she'll get more, you know, she'll get her title soon. I don't think it's going to be right now. I think they have more stories to tell with Tiffany Stratton, and I think everyone's loved her reign, and I don't see it like as a Bailey thing where she goes and faces Nia Jackson and she loses. I think this is one where I completely could buy the idea of her retaining. I think it makes more sense.
Yeah, I think we were discussing, well, at least from my perspective, Eric, I don't remember exactly what you said, but I think you agreed with me. But we feel like, I'll say, I feel like it changed at some point because I think their initial plan, where Charlotte comes back at the Rumble, she gets a babyface reaction because the people miss her. She wins.
And she wins.
She's the babyface going into Mania versus Tiffany the heel, and Charlotte wins number 17. Yep. I think that's the initial plan. And then when the reactions are very obviously the opposite, you know, Charlotte is getting booed out of every arena. Tiffany's super over, like you said. She's getting cheers all over the place, all of this stuff. So it's like, okay, well, that changes things then. Do we want to piss everybody off and have Charlotte win? Because that's the only reason they would have Charlotte win at this point, is to purposely piss the crowd off. You know what I'm saying? I don't think
they're looking to do that.
You know what I mean? Like, if they're doing that for story reasons, sure, but like I don't see where that goes right now. So it's like, unless you're doing that, Tiffany kind of has to win now. So, Eric, what do you think?
There's going to be plenty of other reasons to piss the crowd off during this Mania. And during this match, I don't think it's one of them. I think, just to kind of sum it up with what you guys said, I think that there was a plan for Charlotte to win at one point. And within the past couple of weeks that we've seen, plans changed. And I think it would be foolish, personally, and this is not even like a knock on like WWE's booking or anything like that, but I would think it would be foolish at this point if Charlotte won. So 100%. Yeah, I think Tiffany, this is one of those where I think Tiffany kind of has to win. And there's a few other matches that I'm going to bring up on this card where I feel like somebody has to win in that instance. And in this instance, I think Tiffany has to win. If you want to draw out the feud later on to make it a a 2-3 run, you can, but I think at this point, like I brought up on the last show, I think because so many personal jabs and all this other stuff has been brought up, I think they're going to draw a line in WrestleMania. And I think this will probably be the last that we see of Tiffany and Charlotte for a while.
At least for a while. Yeah. I was going to say they might revisit it, at the end of the year, or maybe next year or something like that, but they got to cool off. They got to, get back right. Cause, and Steve, I want your opinion on this too. I am totally team Tiffany in the shoot aspect of this whole thing, because this is my reading of the situation. During their split screen segment, Charlotte's talking over her the whole time, being loud, going off script. You know what I'm saying? Whereas Tiffany stuck to the script and it made her look weak and bad in that segment. So then there's this segment where, again, Charlotte starts going off script first. You know what I mean? Because Tiffany was delivering her line and it had a cuss word in the line. She was like, "You ain't shit," or something like that. And she sort of stuttered before she said it, and Charlotte jumped on her. You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, Charlotte, like, you're doing it again. So then Tiffany comes out and she gives her the 0-3 line, you know what I'm saying, and rolls out the ring. So I'm like, this is clearly self-defense, in my opinion. Like, you know what I mean? Like, so what are your thoughts on it? I'm totally on Tiffany's side. I don't think she did anything wrong.
So, I mean, I speak as someone who's zero insider. I'm literally just a viewer who watches each week. But I feel like, as someone who's watched humans, like, and wrestlers, you could tell sometimes when it's a shoot and when it's a work. And I'm not saying that we know every time, because we truly don't. I've seen before, Charlotte has had issues with this. Like, she started to get into like a shoot with Nia Jax, and Nia Jax ended up roughing her ass up. She's done it before, like in promos with Becky. I think there was someone else that she did it with, where she really, like, she will go off script. That's, something that she's not supposed to be saying, and really put the other person in a bad position, like, to just even like respond because they weren't made aware of it. I think this is just, game. And I think Tiffany played it way better than Charlotte. Charlotte thought, over the first few weeks when, Tiffany was struggling a little bit with the microphone, that she could go in for a kill. And she left herself open on SmackDown. And Tiffany, I think, probably just got herself a WrestleMania win with what she said back.
People forget about that NXT Tiffany, when she was super confident, when she was running shit down there. And, I think a little bit of that confidence came back these past couple of weeks. And, I think we're going to see it at WrestleMania when she pulls out that win. Hopefully.
Okay. Are we in alignment on all the matches so far? I think we are.
I think so me far, and Eric were last week.
Yeah, so far, yeah.
So far.
All right, so next up, we got the World Heavyweight Championship. We have the Ring General Gunther versus main event Jey Uso. Pretty sure we're all going to be in alignment on this one too. But Steve, who you got?
Yeah, I think I think it's going to be Jey Uso. I really kind of would want Gunther to win, and I have my own reasons for wanting it, but it's a prediction show, and we're trying to say who we think will actually end up winning, regardless of who we want. I think Jey Uso's going to.
That's more interesting, though. Why do you want Gunther to win? We all got Jey, so let's get that off the way. Cool. Why do you want Gunther to win? That's fun.
I think it's the same reason for me as when me and Eric were in disagreement on when Cody lost the first Mania to Roman. I didn't mind the decision, and I kind of liked it more and more as time went on. And Eric, initially didn't like it because he was wondering, the crowd was so over for Cody. Like, why didn't he win? Because I was like, they still have stories to tell with Cody. Like, if it was as easy as just winning, out of nowhere, a Mania and just winning a world championship, it's like, I feel like as a fan, you can kind of lose people, like, if you win too quick. I think this is one of those times with Jey Uso where I think it would help if you keep the title on Gunther, because Gunther can feud with a lot of people, including Jey Uso again. But I want to see how, like, fans go for Jey Uso. Let's say if he were to lose this match, like, would they keep rooting for him? And, like, that's the test for me of, like, is this just a flash in the pan for 2 months and we want to just throw the title off who I think's been the best world champion in a long time? Or, do we want to stay consistent and see if this Jey thing will get over long term? And if it is, then let's have him win it at SummerSlam or at the Mania for the next year.
So here, let me respond.
But I did pick Jey Uso, by the way.
So here's my thing.
Yes, your pick is Jey for sure.
yeah. We're all going for Jey, so that's not even a question. So here's my thing. I would actually 100% agree with Steve, but WWE kind of fumbled the booking between Gunther and Jey, and here's why I say that. I would totally agree with Steve's logic if Gunther and Jey have not faced off as many times as they have.
Yep. Same. That's
my only issue with it. That is my only issue with it, because they have now this is going to be number 3 facing, and you run into the risk now of, if Jey loses now, this will be his 4th time losing versus Gunther.
That's why that's exactly why
that is to me, like,
and that will
paper,
drop a stop.
A complete
100%.
burial if you have him lose now. And I will. This is something that me and Steve said before. I think maybe in a text conversation or something like that. But I definitely want to bring it up to the forefront now. I don't think it was necessarily a mistake for Jey to win the Royal Rumble, right? But I do think that some of the booking could have been rectified if they just would have let Jey win the world title at Saturday night's main event, whenever they let him face Gunther back then. The crowd was super into Jey that night, and there were a couple of moments in a couple of those false finishes where it really felt like Jey should have won that night. And they didn't, and, Gunther retained or whatever, and, we got where we are right now. But I ultimately think that if Jey would have won that night, I think there would have been more story to tell, that if maybe Gunther would have got the belt back and then he faces off against somebody else, whoever would have won the Royal Rumble at that point. And, we can't rectify time, and we can't go back and change things to what we want them to be now. But I definitely just want to bring up that point, that I think that if Jey would have won that match at Saturday night's main event against Gunther and would have won the title back then, I think a lot of the problems that we're having right now get rectified if that would have happened.
Yeah, I can roll with
that. Can't even argue with that. I mean, I agree fully.
Yep. And then our main event of night 1 is Seth Rollins versus Roman Reigns versus CM Punk. Now, this is where we got into our fantasy booking bag a little bit more, because, that's what you do with Roman Reigns stories. You know what I mean? You fantasy book, you know what I mean? Yep. That's the whole point. So what is your fantasy booking on this match? How do you see it playing out?
I know, I feel like it makes all the sense in the world that Paul, as he, I think 2 Mondays ago, had that segment with Seth Rollins, in which Seth, I thought, had one of his best promos of his career. But beyond that, started listing legit reasons to Paul why he's been basically used by CM Punk and Roman Reigns for his whole tenure, basically managing them. So I think it'd be easy to say, hey, I think, what if Paul does the double turn and goes with Seth, which it could happen. I was very close to doing that. I think I got to go CM Punk. I just feel like it's right for Punk to win. My other one, I kind of thought in fantasy books would just be if Heyman's doing a swerve the whole time and he's still Roman's boy and Roman wins. I mean, I think people are severely discounting the chances of that maybe happening, but I'm really just looking forward to a match. Like, this was the one match where I truly, I don't know what's going to happen.
I think that's the only scenario we didn't bring up last week, was Paul potentially staying with Roman. I think we brought up the other 2 scenarios. We brought up Punk winning, and that, causing further friction between Paul and Roman. And, that way you can eventually do that separation, you know, because Paul isn't going to stay with Roman forever. He's going to eventually move on to somebody else, probably like a Braun Breaker or something like that. I see him, you know, something like that. So eventually you have to split them up. So this is a good way to start planting that seed. But, you know, so he could do it, you know, he could go heel, go with Seth, you know what I'm saying? And then, you know, I still have faith that they're somehow going to incorporate Drew and potentially Seth. And if KO wasn't hurt, I would have also said KO into this Rock Cena situation. Like, I see something happening there. Like, I don't know why, you know, Rock talking to Drew backstage and then putting that on Instagram. Maybe that's, you know, one thing. But they all just have a similar attitude towards, you know, like wrestling and wanting to be on top and stuff. And they're all sort of slowly being corrupted. And then Seth is really an architect bag right now. He's like left the whole you know, visionary and all that stuff alone, and you know, like Seth freaking Rollins and all that. He's not really doing that right now. Like, to your point, Steve, he's in architect mode. He's like evil genius plotting, and you know, and I think that could
I think that it could go any which way, but I think at the end of the day, I think Punk's gonna get a win because it's been a long time coming, and and you know that's who I picked. But I think moreover, you can do so much with Punk after that win. You can get him right into the title scene. You can really do whatever you want with him, and I think he needs the win. I think more than all three. I mean, both of those guys have won countless insanely big moments at WrestleMania, both multiple times over, and CM Punk hasn't, and CM Punk is just as big of a star as both those guys. And so I think you need to give him this win, and let's have a hell of a match. That's a hell of a main event.
Yeah, I think I agree ultimately with that. I think I do lean towards Punk, but my second prediction is the Seth one. So, and I think third on the list, I think is Paul staying with Roman. So
you see, three different storylines. Like that's what WWE's doing great.
All I'm going to say is I agree with all of you guys, but no matter what, Roman Reigns takes the pin.
Wow. Yes.
No matter what, Roman Reigns is not winning, and he's taking the pin.
I think whoever pins Roman at WrestleMania is that's a huge boon.
Which leans more into I think it's going to be Punk. Yep.
Me too.
Night 2, we start off with AJ Styles versus Logan Paul. I think this is just going to be, you know, just athleticism going crazy.
Man, Birdman had rope on that one. I cannot wait for AJ Styles versus Logan Paul. I think people are underselling. I know you guys aren't because you guys are hip. I think the Karrion Kross angle in this is a huge piece of this program. I honestly think that Karrion Kross has been doing the best job carrying this feud. I mean, you know, those, not to say Logan and AJ haven't done a great job, you know, in like kind of the shorter time that they've had, but Karrion Kross and AJ Styles, the dynamic here, I think is a huge indicator of what I think is going to happen. I think Logan Paul wins this match. I don't think that Logan has had like a big win at Mania. I know he's won at SummerSlams, but I don't think he's had like a big Mania win yet. I think AJ's the perfect dude to go over on, and I think it's going to lead to a feud between AJ Styles and Karrion Kross, which I'm all for at this point.
I can't remember if Logan beat Ricochet.
He beat him at SummerSlam in Detroit.
Or if he beat whoever it was during his initial tag match. At Mania, but he may have won one of them. But to piggyback off what you were saying, Steve, I said on our last predictions video that I had AJ Styles winning. Based off of everything that you just said, I am flipping my pick and I'm going with Logan Paul. And I hate to say that because I really want AJ Styles to win.
I do too.
I think you're right, and I think that the bigger feud coming out of this is going to be AJ versus Karrion. So yeah, I think I got Logan winning this.
I can't wait for that match.
Or unless you have Karrion help AJ get the win.
That's what he's having you believe as a fan right now, based on he hates Logan.
Yeah.
But we'll see if that's too obvious.
And, well, the only other reason I say that is because I don't know if you guys picked up on this. Commentary didn't mention it, which kind of shocked me. I was like, oh, that looked very intentional. But at the very end of the match, when AJ goes to hit the phenomenal forearm on Karrion Kross, yes.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. I'm glad you, He put his hands behind his back and just...
He sacrificed himself.
And sacrificed himself, exactly. Like, for the cause, almost. You know what I mean? Like, the cause against protecting wrestling or protecting this business from people like Logan Paul. You know what I mean? So it's like the whole thing was him trying to get AJ to unleash that vicious side. You know, it was sort of like a repeat of the Kane Cena thing, whereas like, you know, embrace the hate, you know, like embrace your evil side. You know, that's what he's been trying to get AJ to do. So I could actually see him doing that, but that pissing AJ off because he's like, I'm righteous and I want the win because I'm better than Logan. I don't want it cheaply. And that makes him and Karrion feud more. You know what I mean? So I could see it happening like that too.
Okay. So who do you got
I already
overall,
said it on camera, I'll still stick with my pick of Logan Paul, but that was a great explanation.
Mm-hmm. And who do you got?
I think who did I say last week, Eric? I don't even remember.
I think you said AJ.
Okay, so this might have been.
This will be the first. Yeah, this will be the first.
Yeah, especially on an opening night match. I think they're gonna have the babyface win. They like to start off with getting the crowd happy. So, next is the Sin City Street Fight: Damian Priest versus Drew McIntyre. So they've been heating up the build. You know, I think people are more on board with the match now. So Steve, who you got winning?
I've been so happy with this feud. It's been one of my favorite feuds of Mania so far. I think both guys have been
look at that turnaround. I love it.
With that said, Drew McIntyre. It's Drew McIntyre's time. He is actually a great WrestleMania performer. I think he's won a lot more than he's lost. I don't really remember him losing a Mania match. Besides, you know, getting cashed in on, which I guess that technically counts. But I think Drew is jet rocketing right into the main event scene after beating Priest. I think this was a great feud. I think it helps Priest a lot, regardless of if Priest wins or loses. And I think Priest is way more believable of a character, especially as a babyface, from having this feud.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I was just telling somebody, because one of their complaints about Priest, you know, before was that he seemed too much like a character, like he wasn't being authentic. And I was like, I think they have allowed him during this feud to be himself on the mic. This is the most, I feel like, okay, this is Priest.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Against it started then for sure.
Yeah, no,
you know?
since then, like I think he reverted back after that feud, and then he's brought it back for this program. I'm super hyped for it, but yeah, to be clear, I do think Drew's gonna win.
Yeah, I think so. I think Drew's probably gonna win too. I think he's because he lost the Punk feud, so you know, in order to keep him in that world
and lost twice to Priest.
True, but there were also dubious circumstances how he lost to Priest both times, so I don't think people necessarily would count that against him like they would the Punk feud. Like he straight up lost to Punk in Hell in a Cell, so it's like, okay, that's a loss. So he needs to win against Priest in order to stay in that world title scene. Like he's a main eventer for life, but to stay in like story wise, you know, to stay in the world title scene. He needs that win.
He's hinted to challenging Cody multiple times, and I think that's probably where they're going next.
Yeah, I would assume so. Also, well,
or Randy.
We'll get to that. We'll get to that.
Yeah. I don't, because you guys basically said everything that I wanted to say, so I'll just say that as far as on my must wins, this is on my must win. And it's for Drew. This is on my must wins. This is a must win for Drew for me.
Yeah, that's legit. That's legit. Next match, Fatal 4-Way. I am so looking forward to this match. We have my dog, your dog, Braun Breaker versus Dominic Mysterio, everybody's little brother that they all can't stand, versus Penta versus Prince Finn Balor. This is going to be a fucking phenomenal match. Steve, who
Can't
you
wait.
got?
I'm going to go off the reservation here. I think sense would tell you that maybe Braun does retain, but I'm gonna do a wild card here because I actually think it's going to happen. I think Dom Mysterio is going to win this match. I think that the way that Dom has been presented, the way that he gets over as a heel with fans, how good he is, I think in the ring now at this point, his ability to tell a story inside the ring, and I think it just makes most sense long term. For Dom to win this match, because I think likewise with Drew going to the WWE title scene, I kind of see Braun Breaker going into the World Heavyweight title scene soon.
Yeah, and so this one I think I did 2 predictions. They essentially reached the same conclusion and the same outcome, but it's either Dom or Finn. And
Finn, okay,
it's one of them too, and this is how I see it playing out. It's gonna play out. This is fantasy booking territory again. So, Penta or Braun is gonna do their move to the other. You know what I'm saying? It's gonna be them two that are involved in the final spot. So it's gonna be Penta and Braun. Either Braun's gonna hit Penta with a spear, or Penta's gonna hit him with a Mexican destroyer. One of the two. 1, 2, and then maybe Finn runs in, gets rid of him, does his move, does a coup de grace. 1, 2, looks like he's going to win. Dom throws him out. 1, 2, 3. Or the opposite. Dom is about to get the win. Finn throws him out.
I think that's what could happen. Damn it, Shane.
And then Finn goes back to the locker room, to the rest of the Judgment Day, and they're all pissed at him. And he's like, hey, I thought we all said it didn't matter who won as long as it came back to Judgment Day, right? And then they still proceed to kick him out. That's the conclusion.
Okay.
As Dom takes over Judgment Day, Finn leaves, but it's going one of those 2 ways. One of them is going to screw the other one out of the title. One of them is going to have 1, 2. Oh, shit.
So you're Finn or Dom. Okay. What about you, Eric?
Either Finn or Dom, though. It's going to be one of those 2. And I would like it to be Dom, but I'm leaving both of those possibilities open. It's not going to be Penta, and I don't see Braun retaining.
Yeah, that was my idea. Basically, was that either Dom or Finn. But not only do I want Dom to win, but it's his time, bro. He's put in the work. He was one of the workhorses of 2023. Lest people forget, I think he had the most matches out of anybody on the whole roster that year. So it's Dom's time. Just put the belt on him, man. It's his time.
Yeah, I'm not mad at that.
I am not either.
Next match, I think this one's kind of predictable. Now the outcome of it might lead to some stuff, but the match itself, the outcome, pretty predictable in my opinion. We have Judgment Day, Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez, aka the Lady Clique, versus Bayley, Lyra Valkyria, the women's intercontinental champion, who is not defending her women's intercontinental championship at WrestleMania, but is
neither is Chelsea Green, by the way,
tag team championship match rather than defending the title that she already has. But I digress, in the words of my man Taz. Steve, who you got?
Unless I'm missing something here, I think it's pretty easy. It's going to be Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez beating Bayley and Lyra Valkyria. I think them getting taken to them a little bit on the Raw told it for me, and I think Eric too. But I think Liv and Raquel get a good win here. I think it's going to be a great match too. I kind of thought they were the action going on with them on Raw last time was really entertaining too. But Liv and Raquel.
Yeah, I think that's the obvious choice here.
The rumor that I've been hearing, well, not even the rumor, but the theory that I've been hearing floating around is not that Bayley is going to turn, but that Lyra Valkyria will turn heel. If that does happen, personally, I would like it because Lyra hasn't really done shit with the Intercontinental Championship. And obviously that's not her fault. That's the booking that she's been dealt with. But I think if she does turn heel, I think that that'll be a chance to freshen up her character a little bit. And we haven't really seen a heel Lyra, so like I'm just interested to see what that would look like. So if they do decide to do a heel turn in that match, I would rather it be Lyra turning on Bayley rather than Bayley turning on Lyra, because personally, I don't really think it's time for Bayley to turn heel just yet.
I agree.
And it would be more interesting. Right. It's a more interesting story if Lyra does it, because we've seen heel Bayley. That's how we got Damage Control. So it's like we're good. You know what I mean? We're good on that. Like we're
let her take her time before a new iteration of a heel comes out. We don't need to rush it right now. Like let her be a baby face and let I kind of like the Lyra idea. I think clearly it's they haven't really given her many chances, but it may just be because they don't trust her to do a baby face promo, whatever the case may be. I think she'd be a lot better as a heel anyway. She kind of like wrestles like one. And that's a compliment. She's a great wrestler.
Yeah. No, Lyra's dope. I think that's more interesting. And I also like Bayley, her role kind of as being like the OG of the upper mid card scene. I like that for her right now too. Like, because she's done the world title thing. She's been back then it was the Raw and SmackDown Women's Champion, but the World and WWE Women's Champion. She did her thing in NXT. Like, she's had her top championship reigns and her. So I think you need people like that who, like for the male side, that's AJ Styles. He's been in the main event in the world title scene many times, been former WWE champion and stuff, but he'll still slide back, fight for the US title, fight for the Intercontinental title. Back in the day, Jericho was like that. You have your people who can float in and out of the main event and the upper mid card. And I like Bayley in that role. Like, she's really good for that, because I think she does a good job preparing those people for the next step. You know what I'm saying? So, but yeah, ultimately, Liv and Raquel got it. I don't even think that's a question.
Yeah.
Now this one is very difficult to call, in my opinion. So we have the WWE Women's World Championship. So just the Women's World Champion. I don't know why they put WWE in the front of it, but the Women's World Championship, it's Io Sky versus Rhea Ripley versus Bianca Belair. Now, just want to bring these things up. Rhea has never defeated Io. Bianca has never lost at WrestleMania. So just want to put those things on the table before, Steve, I ask you for your prediction.
Man, this is a struggle. I think I'm gonna go. I think I'm going Bianca to win the title here. I think that there's gonna be something interwoven with becoming more of a heel, because you can just tell by how she's cutting her promos that it's subtly happening, and you can definitely see it's happening, and I think that it's going to be the best. I think it's going to be one of the best matches of either card, Saturday or Sunday. And 100%. I think she's going to pin. I think she's going to pin Rhea.
That would make the most sense. I think I predict Io retaining. Because I think the story is that Rhea and Bianca are going to be so focused on each other, and they're going to forget about Io. They've constantly done that the whole feud. They're like, you're not even important. This is about us. And it's like, she's the champion for a reason. You know what I mean? Like, she's really good, and she's beat both of y'all. So y'all really need to focus on her, but you're so focused on each other, you're going to take your eye off the prize. So that's how I see it. Io's going to retain.
I also have, if Bianca does turn heel, I have it playing out one of two ways. Either it happens during the match as it plays out, and we just slowly see the heel turn just play out during the match, kind of like on some Bret Hart and Steve Austin type shit, or she turns right after the match.
And I could see a loss being the catalyst for the heel turn. You know what I mean? Like, especially
if she gets pinned.
I was going to say,
especially if she gets pinned.
I was actually going to say the opposite. I was going to say if Io beats Rhea, Bianca will probably attack Rhea after the match, which really solidifies the heel turn because everyone loves Rhea so much. So if you beat down the crowd's favorite after the match and you're blaming her, you're the reason I'm not the champion, bitch, blah, 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 and you're beating the shit out of her, You see what I'm saying? Like, and then
Okay.
Bianca can have a claim to still be, go after the title because she didn't get pinned. And then I'll let you talk. And then as a delusional heel, I'm still undefeated at WrestleMania. I didn't get pinned. You see what I'm saying? Even though
You took the words right out of my mouth. I don't even gotta say it now.
I think you just sold me on it. Like, because actually listening to Bianca's promos, they are kind of like holding on to like, hey, I won this, like very result driven and not like doesn't sound big. I could see it becoming someone that's just tormented by like coming up short.
And it's basically the Drew KO thing, justified heel behavior. It's the justified, I'm right about everything, but you don't like the way I'm presenting it. What I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, all right. We're at our main event. We have Cody Rhodes versus John Cena for the WWE Championship. Do we see Cena become Mr. 17, or does Cody Rhodes retain the World WWE Championship, World Wrestling Entertainment? Steve, who you got?
I'm gonna get you guys here. I think John Cena is getting his 17th, but not until SummerSlam. I think Cody Rhodes wins. I think Cody Rhodes retains as WWE champion. I can't wait to see it. I don't really care either way who wins. I love the outcomes for both. I think it just makes the most sense for me watching Cena's career that he loses as a heel, and he eventually, within a few months, he'll stay a heel, but I feel like he eventually realizes that he's never winning a championship without the fans behind him. And I think it takes a seat until SummerSlam, where he beats, I think he beats Cody.
Do you think that's a waste of a heel turn if they don't pull the trigger at Mania?
No, because I in my opinion, I think people really like the John Cena heel turn. I definitely will acknowledge I'd like to see where it goes next, but I don't think that necessarily needs to end if he loses to Cody Rhodes. I think the whole program's been set on he's generalizing Cody Rhodes as just a dude who's copied him, not realizing this dude's become you and everything more. This dude is the ultimate champion. I could see him winning and then Cena realizing the mistakes he's made, where then it slowly burns into a eventual babyface turn again.
I guess my only pushback is what is the benefit of Cena specifically, not Cody, but Cena specifically? What's the benefit of him selling his soul to The Rock, other than a guaranteed 17th championship? And the reason I say that is because he's already Hollywood, so Rock can't promise him that. He's already doing movies and shit. He's already, phenomenally rich, so The Rock can't get that for him. He's already done that. You know what I mean? I'm sure if Cena wanted to be, a high executive in WWE or something, he could do that without The Rock also. So all of his dreams and all of that kind of stuff, The Rock can't make happen. But what he can make happen is making sure that he wins number 17 and he becomes the top guy. He's above Flair now. He's, he can help him cement his legacy. So I guess that's where that ties in for me. It's the selling your soul aspect has to have some benefit to it. So if you just lose as a heel, then it's why did you do that? So that's the only reason I asked, is it a waste of a heel turn?
I have a huge theory on this whole thing.
Okay.
I think The Rock, it's going to come out that he has been trying to systematically take down Cody this whole time, which is why he joined Roman Reigns in the bloodline and tried to, play the rules against them with the bloodline rules. He failed. It got foiled. Cody won. He's now getting, the biggest star, since him basically, and John Cena to go beat Cody Rhodes and take him off the mantle, in terms of, his bloodline. And I think that this all culminates with next year, Cody facing The Rock.
Okay. So you think
to try to take him down himself. That's just my big.
So in a way, what you're saying is the story that they've been referencing since Cody has come back to WWE is not really him chasing the WWE Championship. The story really is Cody Rhodes versus The Rock and The Rock's mission to take down Cody Rhodes and preserve his family as the number one family. That's the
I think
real
so.
actual story that Cody has been telling this whole time.
I love that. Like that's what I'm trying to like. It would be really. And again, let's cap this thing off. And I want to say like, I completely see reasons for Cena winning. Like I still think like if Cena wins, like that's really fucking cool. I'm just interested to see like if he wins, that means as champion, it's not going to be like he's not going to get the leeway that Roman did when he was like toward the endish of the bloodline. Like people want to see Cena if he's a heel be champ. Is he committed to all these dates, or is he just kind of doing a huge thing at Mania? Maybe he loses, then he comes back towards the summer and just goes into high gear.
I think, and Eric, I want your thoughts on this too, but because I think we spoke about this, but I see him possibly doing like what Brock Lesnar did when he was Universal Champion, or what Roman did, when he was the champion, but he plays into it as a heel more so than actually just having a light schedule. He's like, I'm in Hollywood, like I'm on movie sets. I don't have time to be entertaining y'all and blah blah blah. And he's like constantly doing videos, almost like Hollywood Rock style, where he's constantly sending videos in, and he's like doing live, promo battles against people, but from Hollywood sets all the time. And he never comes to the arena, but he's always got the belt on his shoulder and stuff like that. I think that could be really entertaining, and you fulfill both, because I know his schedule's got to be busy, you know what I mean? But you could actually do that, like film vignettes and stuff like that, where he's just talking shit. And that way he's on TV every week, but he's just not always live, you know what I mean?
So I'll merge them both, your idea and what Steve has been saying, kind of together into kind of what I think is going to happen. Because I agree with you, Shane. I think that Cena is going to win. Steve, I actually love your idea of the long-term building towards Cody and The Rock for next year, because if they're not going to do Roman and The Rock, I do think that we do need to get Cody and The Rock out of the way eventually, based off of everything that's happened. So I actually love that idea. Going off of what you said, Shane, I think that with Cena winning, you have a few things that WWE has low-key told us without blatantly just coming out and saying, hey, this is what's going to happen in the next month or so, that we can kind of piece together to kind of figure out that Cena is winning this title. So the rumor is whatever out there on the dirt sheets, and you can listen to dirt sheets if you want to, whatever the case may be.
What's the rumor?
That John Cena is advertised for the Raw after Mania. So that's
but Cody is
not.
not.
Put it on there.
That's the part. That's the specific part that makes that interesting, is that Cena is advertised, but Cody is not.
Right. But
so that's why they're thinking like, oh, did they accidentally leak the results by doing that?
I never put it past WWE to do that. Like on purpose.
But wait, and I'm not even done yet, because this is, to me, the most interesting part, and this was something that Steve actually brought to my attention. So shout out to you for this. But the Backlash poster has came out for St. Louis, and right front dab on the center is Randy Orton.
Randy's from St. Louis, though, so that makes sense.
It does. But to me, if I were booking a Backlash main event right now, just in the future, if Cena were going to be the title holder, I would be booking Cena versus Randy Orton.
Yeah.
Or Cody versus Orton.
You could definitely do that.
It depends on what Cody does after he loses, if that does happen. But
who do we think Randy? Lastly, guys, who do we think Randy faces
at Mania?
Yeah,
I don't know if he has a match.
I don't know. I heard a theory that I think would be interesting. They tease that it's going to be solo, and then like some type of big brawl happens or something else like that, and then Nick Aldis ends up in the ring, and then it's just him and Randy Orton, and then the match happens.
I would prefer that. I would love to see Randy Orton versus Nick Aldis, but
me too.
I just found out that me and Nick Aldis are the same age, bro.
That's
He's
wild.
38 years old, and I'm gonna be 38 in a few months. I'm like, what, bro? Like,
That's
Shout
wild.
out Nick Aldis.
Yeah.
shout out Nick Aldis.
Yeah, I don't know what Randy's gonna do at Mania, but I hope he does have a match because it's hard to
I
tell
hope
right
so
now.
too.
It's hard to
I
tell.
hope so, and it you know, you want him on the card because he's Randy Orton, obviously, and I don't see him necessarily not being on the card, but I don't see where he fits right now. Like, what do you do with him? You know what I mean? Like, unless you want to throw the solo match on there, like. But
And if
I
you
don't know.
do, that'll be a very quick, like 5 to 6
Yeah, it'll be
minute
like
match.
5 minutes. He's gonna squash him real quick just so he can get that Mania check. That's it. But yeah, I don't know. But yeah, we'll see though. We'll see though. This is a fun fantasy booking episode. We'll have to do some more of these, you know what I mean? Yeah, Birdman hand rubs in the chat, you know. But this has been Shoot Style Sessions, everybody. This is Shane G. We got Steve, we got Eric. Make sure you follow all of us. S. Slobin on all socials. Make sure you follow the Eric G Life on all socials, and make sure you follow Shane_ethos. Follow the Ethos Media Network, as you see on the lower third right there. And if you're a super fan, subscribe on Patreon. We would definitely appreciate the love. You know what I mean? We got some good bar exam episodes over there. You know, some just good candid discussions. A lot of fun stuff over there. So, you know, and if you're an artist, make sure you check them links out below in the description, because that'll help you out for sure. You definitely want to fund your career. Make sure you click them links. That's going to get you where you need to be. But until next time, this is Shoot Style Sessions on the Ethos Media Network. Peace.